Zoom recording. Okay. All right. So, let's see. The other thing I want to do today, I want to talk a little bit about your Monday. I understand you all met on Monday. I want to hear a little bit about what happened there and how things are progressing, and then I want to talk a little bit about leadership, as far as what leadership and communication looks like, in terms from the discipline perspective. So let's start right with Monday. Andrew, Quinn, Jalen, how'd Monday go? Did you guys get together? I hope, and how'd it look? And there's only three of you here, so I'm assuming you didn't bury the hatchet in anyone's head.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
That'll be the
You
last
know,
time we all be
yeah.
Class was good. This was the very first time we actually have met because we reformed. Quinn and I reformed into Andrew and oh shoot, I forget people's names. Andrew and Isaac's group, and so it was really nice because we had all of us, me, Quinn, Jalen, Ike, well, said my name, and it was nice to have everybody there. So,
Okay.
yep.
Good. Good. And how'd it go, Andrew? What'd you guys accomplish?
Well, I feel like for the first time, the whole group was cohesive. Like everyone, it kind of felt like we were all meeting for the first time, just because we had Isaac there, who wasn't there the time that Jalen and Quinn and myself were, and then Ike finally. And Ike was very pleasant. Everyone was great. It was a little awkward at first, but I felt like we all warmed up really quickly once we all sat down at the table. So we had to wait like 15, 20 minutes for our time to open because we got in at the half hour. Because we all met up at, I think it was 5. So we get in there, we go up to the kiosk and we all sign in. Ike had to make an account, but that was quick. It was easy. So we started at 5:30. We got 2 booths, and we kind of gave Ike a little tutorial. There was a trainer there who helped as well, but it was just the whole time we were just throwing axes. It wasn't like we took any big breaks. We played all the different games that there were. Jalen asked a lot of like questions. He was trying to learn from the rest of us who had been more experienced with it, or maybe learned a little quicker. Ike, I felt like picked up really quick as well.
Was one of my best students.
Okay. Quinn?
Yeah, it was really good. I feel like we warmed up really well. Of course, Isaac, Andrew, and myself were really good on our form and stuff. Jalen and Ike still getting there, and that's a lot of what we focused on, was trying to teach them, what the form's supposed to look like, how it's supposed to feel. Yeah. But eventually we were able to all bury the hatchet into the wood,
Okay.
It took a little bit though, but we managed.
When I even started trying like trick shots, like I would face away from it, and then I would turn around and throw it. Quinn was doing this underhand throw. I would do like a side throw, and every time I did it, Jalen was like, "Oh, that's so cool! Let me get a video of it."
An underhand axe throw.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. Try then holding the axe where it goes like this, and then you have the hat, like that part right there. You just do it down, and I think the blade, I think it's facing that way. I don't know. It's just the sharp part, is there rather than there. And then you just
okay.
You don't move your wrist.
Kind of like how you would throw a water bottle.
Okay.
The momentum's at the bottom. You use the momentum of the bottom of it,
I look forward to seeing and reviewing what that turns out to be. Yeah, that's a new one on me. So okay, well then I'm happy that at least we're making some significant progress. That's so vital in something like this. So I'm happy to see that. What I want to do, and you might want to take some notes, of course, but I want to talk a little bit about leadership communication. Can't get out of a small group class without at least having some idea of leadership and teamwork and what that sort of means. And this, these pages that I'm going to kind of go through that are up on the screen right now are from are from a workshop that I have done over the years, multiple times, on just this leadership, teamwork, and what does that mean from a communication perspective. Having said that, when we define leadership, or when we start off with defining teamwork, we pull from some of the people that are famous for understanding a little bit about life and teamwork. And the first one I have, Helen Keller. You all know Helen Keller historically as a person who was both blind and deaf, and was a very a very worthwhile and amazing individual as a result of being able to overcome those kinds of obstacles. Who said, "Alone we can do so little; together we can do so much." And I think somebody who comes at life with not all the same abilities as everyone else, having the ability to recognize that, it takes lots of pieces to form a puzzle, right? It takes a village to fully raise a child, if I'm going to quote Hillary Clinton. The people around us, if we actually work together, we can do and accomplish so much more. Andrew Carnegie, teamwork is the ability to work together toward a common vision, the ability to direct individual accomplishments toward organizational objectives. It is the fuel that allows common people to attain uncommon results. Sounds like Tuckman in some ways, doesn't it? Like if you're actually getting to the performing stage, you've accomplished just this right here. Coming together is a beginning, Henry Ford. Staying together is progress, and working together is success. And the achievements of an organization are the results of the combined effort of each individual. All right, so let's talk about leadership. You might remember us talking a little bit about this already, but leadership from a communication perspective, and a perspective that I take quite personally, is about the risk of managing meaning. The risk of managing meaning. So I'm going to read the rest of this, and then I want to talk about what managing meaning means. We assume a leadership role, indeed we become leaders, through our ability to decipher and communicate meanings of complex and confusing situations. Our communications actually do the work of leadership. Our talk is the resource we get others to act. All right, so let's take a minute and talk about perspective. I can get up in the morning, I can wake up and I can, get out of bed, and I can, be barefoot, of course, get out of bed, put my foot down on top of a Lego. And as I am bouncing around from having stepped on the Lego and that little pain that's there, I happen to kick the metal leg of my bed frame. Now, I can choose to take a couple of different approaches to that, right? I can either scream the greatest expletive that I know, whatever that might be, this swear word or that swear word, and I can decide that this is a heck of a start to the day and that my whole day is already ruined from point A. And there are people who will take that approach. Or I can get out of bed, hit the Lego, hit the metal frame, fall back into bed, kind of rub that foot that is now in serious pain, whatever it might be. And I can go, wow, if this is the worst thing that's ever going to happen to me, it's already finished. Everything is going to be golden from here on out. We define, in fact, we socially construct. If we take a step back to the beginning of the semester and we talk about that social construction of reality, we socially construct our reality. Is it going to be a good day or a bad day, depending upon what just happened as I woke up? I can define it as being a horrible day and the whole day is ruined already. Or I can define it as being worst part's already over. It can only get better. And so leadership is about the risk of managing meaning. I'm managing meaning when I say what that one instant means. And when I tell other people about it, if they too can capture that same meaning that I've given, whatever the circumstance might be, we know the fact. The fact is, I stepped on a Lego and I kicked a metal frame and I have bare feet. And I'm in pain. How am I spinning it? That's leadership. How am I spinning it to let everyone else know that the best is yet to come now today? And if I can get people to capture that vision, that's managing the meaning of leadership. So, the risk of managing meaning and relaying that meaning to others. So, when I do this, and we don't necessarily need to do this today, and I'm not, but when I do this with a group, and this is a half a day kind of workshop, we start off by saying, well, tell me what you're most proud of, as a team leader. Because think about this for a moment. Jalen was rather nervous about the idea of throwing an axe, by his own admitting, which is just fine. Andrew and Quinn basically said, great, we will show you, we will teach you. And now you're telling me about how you were doing just that. Sounds to me like these are leadership snippets already in play. If other people see, by example, what's going on, and for either choice or conscription, meaning they're told to, they become part of the group. That if this were evolving, if this were a group that is evolving, then we wind up with that example framing social construction. Okay. Transactional model of communication. You've seen this to some extent already. This is just a different version of sorts. You remember that whole communicator A and their field of experience? You remember communicator B and their field of experience? Now look at this and you see the same two circles with the overlapping shared field of experience. So we are taking leadership and actually saying, at what point can I connect with people? What's going to be in that shared field of experience? That whole idea that we talked about at the beginning of the semester, I'm at the Walmart and I have potatoes in my grocery cart. And the person looking at me in front of me or behind me in the checkout line looks at my cart and says, you like potatoes? I like potatoes too. And now we're talking about potatoes. And in my head, I'm thinking, who cares? But at the same time, what we are doing is we're finding a shared field of experience by which to communicate. Could we just as easily be talking about the weather? Of course. Could we just as easily be talking about, don't I recognize you from school? Aren't you you are on campus the same time I am. Are you taking the same classes I am? But now we're talking about our school experience. We're delving into that shared field of experience and starting to exercise it. So the multiple roles that we play: influence, context, and collaboration. That's that whole idea of managing meaning and exerting that meaning, the definition that we put on meaning on others. Okay. Influence. I'm describing that meaning to others within the group context if the group adopts my vision of interpretation of that social construction. I am influencing others. And thus, if they take it and they work with me on continuing that vision, you, by definition, from the communication discipline, are a leader. Does that make sense? So if I say to you that the world is upside down because you cannot trust the government, and you all are convinced that I'm right, and we start to get together and meet, and then we start acting on the fact that we can't trust the government, so we start taking things in our own hands. I may not be a good leader, but I am a leader at that point because I am taking my vision, my social construction, my interpretation of reality, passing it on. Now, are there news channels that are doing exactly this and thus exercising the communicative role of leadership? Yeah. From a political standpoint, on multiple sides of the political spectrum. And there's a lot of people that fall for that influence, accept that influence, join that group, and then can collaborate on those same ideals.
You know, what was happening.
So this is a good one as we talk about our idea of work. Andrew, just off the top, what do you think the difference is between a leader and a manager?
Was to make sure that
I don't hear a thing.
Okay.
That's
Leaders
better.
inspire and managers control.
Good. That's a really good perspective. Crane, what do you think?
I was just say something similar. Leaders like show and they teach, and then managers just tell.
Okay. All right, very good. And Jalen bailed just as I was getting ready to ask him. So okay. And I'm saying that for the recording. We'll see if he bothers to read the record, listen to the recording, come back later, and mention it to me. So I think you're absolutely right. And it's there's always that difference between I'm going to give you a vision and I want you to see where our objectives are. If you kind of catch the vision that I'm giving you, I don't need to micromanage it, do I? A manager often is described as the person who's going to take care of your daily tasks and make sure you have your to-do lists and micromanage your steps because they're kind of coercing you into realizing their vision versus leading you to capture the vision, become excited by the vision, that you're just kind of moving that direction and using your own initiative. Which might be a really interesting way of saying, as Andrew put, leaders inspire, managers control.
And normally when I have a good manager, or when I used to work at like retail, if it was a good manager, it was somebody that generally inspired. It made me like working rather than controlling everything.
Yeah, and in fact, we often say that there are other things than money that will inspire people to retain a job, and good leadership is one of them. You know, if the organization doesn't have a lot of money, or if it's a nonprofit and they you know, and let me rephrase that. Money is a motivator for some, not for everyone. But money is a motivator for everyone until such a time that they've accomplished what we call levels 1, maybe 2 of Maslow's hierarchy of needs: food, shelter, clothing, a comfort level of money coming in to be able to exercise the payment of the bills. And then after that is accomplished, then people start to ask themselves, how much is enough? How much do I need beyond that? And then I can answer the question, am I motivated by money? And am I willing to jump ship and go to a bad organization for a higher dollar figure, or stay for a lower dollar figure to a place I really enjoy? But there's got to be that level of basic bill paying ability and enough money coming in to be comfort, to reach a certain level of comfort before we start making that statement. Well, people are not always motivated by money. Yeah, but they will be until their bills are paid. Because otherwise they're not going to stay very long anyway. They'll lose their house, their car, whatever, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then they won't be able to come to work anyway. So there's got to be at least a level of a baseline before we can make that statement. So when I say to you, not everybody is motivated by money, that's true after we've reached the baseline. Because people in this society, the way it's set up, we have to reach that baseline to get the bills paid before we can say, am I comfortable to say that I'm not motivated by money? And then can I say, I am motivated because I want to work with this person, my manager, my leader, my boss, whomever that, whatever I call them, are they a leader? And if you have anybody actually ever saying, I would rather stay here than go to someplace for more money, that is a byproduct of good leadership. So when you say that, Andrew, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's I don't work a day in my life if I really enjoy what I do. And if I really enjoy what I do, it's often because I've got a vision and I work for myself, or I work for somebody else and I really kind of caught the fire of their vision and like what they do. So two primary models of communication with respect to leadership today are the comparison of authoritarian, democratic, and laissez-faire styles, and the contrast between task and interpersonal styles. So when we talk about models and typologies, these things are useful for wrapping our heads around concepts. I mean, just think about, for example, the biological concept of life. How does the study of biology actually allow us to wrap our heads around the concept of life? Does the fact that I can say we are, the human being is a Homo sapien, and I don't know, I don't have memory of my basic biology from, seventh grade, perhaps, where we talked about kingdom, phylum, class, species. I can't even name the rest of them, but you get the idea. Where we took these organisms and the various biological organisms, and we basically categorized them by certain levels of, well, this one has a vertebrae, that one doesn't. This one's amphibious, that one's not. And we actually looked at them and said, here's how we're going to classify life. What that allows us to do in our own heads is bring order to chaos. It's a social construction. This is how we're actually organizing, all of the living creatures on the planet. And so this helps us decide that, makes us believe we have a handle on it. Typologies do that for us. There's a psychological approach to typologies. So the same thing can be said for leadership styles, especially so one of those typologies is to look at leadership and define them into three categories: authoritarian, democratic, and laissez-faire, from a regular standpoint. Is there a place for all three of these? Absolutely. But for example, if I'm in a war and I'm a member of the military, laissez-faire is not something that will win a war. Now, if you look here, it affords followers a high degree of autonomy, let them act on their own, self-rule, while at the same time offering guidance and support when requested. Let's compare that to authoritarian. Maintain strict control over followers by directly regulating policies, procedures, and behavior. If I am trying to operate a theater of conflict, and I need this platoon, this group, this artillery unit over here, over there, I don't go to them and say, I need you to figure out where you need to be somewhere over here within this time frame. No, because I've got other units and destructive paraphernalia being thrown in certain directions at certain locations. I can't have, I can't have my group deciding when they will show up, where they will show up, et cetera, because we will lose the war. There will be more people dead, So what we are looking at doing when we talk about military conflict, for example, there's a place there for an authoritarian. People often want to argue with me and say there's never a place for authoritarian leadership. Well, those are the people that have never had to actually be in an overall major conflict. Now, is there no place for an authoritarian rule, in regular organizations in society? I beg to say that there still is, especially when we're dealing with hazardous chemicals, um, uh, assembly of dangerous things like weapons or even automobiles. The processes by which these go, it's not a laissez-faire thing. However, there are other times and places where, for example, a democratic approach to leadership works. As I used to always say to my students over the 30 years that I've been teaching, this is a very democratic classroom. You all get a vote and then I decide, which is a joke. Because if it really is democratic, we all get a vote and whatever is voted on mostly will win. And thus, I don't decide. We all have decided. But a democratic can be kind of a mix there, right? Representative government, much like we have in the United States, we can have where the person who actually makes the decision, the manager, the leader, is taking in the account of everybody who has something to say about the decision, that all vested interests accounted for, and then tries to make the best decision based on all the advice that's been given. So that's kind of a more of a representative angle to a democratic. It is basically what I just said, and I was kind of joking in the idea of you all get a vote, then I decide. Well, it's the same concept as representative. I will take into account everything you all have to say. Ultimately, though, it's my decision as the leader, as the manager, depending on where we go. And some military leaders will take a lot of that into account when there's time. Some military operations don't have the time, and the decisions might have to be made fast and quick, for the good of the overall project, whatever that might be. So we get the interaction in the democratic, we don't get the interaction in the authoritarian, and we get a lot more interaction in laissez-faire, which is often considered, chaos, everyone can do everything they want. That's not truly the case. Laissez-faire as a phrase gets a bad rap when it's applied. We're not covering it specifically at length in my notes here, but task orientation versus interpersonal orientation. We often have, if we take a step back to our conversation, Andrew, and about the difference between managers and leaders, we will often have some people, if this were a much larger group, some people might have actually said and have said in the past that their understanding of manager versus leader is the manager is task oriented. I don't care who does this work. This work has to get done, and I got to direct people to get it done. Whereas the leader is people oriented. Yes, the tasks are there, but I'm more concerned about the growth and development of the people, and we've got to move the entire project forward. So sometimes it matters more about who does it than the fact that it's done. So task-oriented versus people-oriented, interpersonal versus task. Woodrow Wilson said, if you're much more people-oriented, for example, you'll see here, I not only use all the brains that I have, but all that I can borrow. When people come and ask me as a professional out in the business world, hey, do you know how to do X, Y, and Z? If I haven't got a clue, or even if I do have a clue, I often say to them, my response is always, you know what? I don't know everything, but collectively, I know people that do. meaning I have the resource, I have the people who are good resources to give me the answers.
And pay in-network costs.
So, I'm gonna send you all a copy of this because I think this is a decent survey. The 12 statements below for each statement indicate your level of agreement. We might not take the time to do that. Actually, we can take the time to do that. Go ahead and pull out a piece of paper.
Count on United Healthcare. You know, you get the care you need.
Quinn went to the store to go get a piece of paper.
And what ends December
Is it cool if I just use Notepad on the computer?
You can use whatever you want. That's fine.
Enjoy all.
If you're one of these people that's gotten to the point of taking notes really well on the computer. So yeah, you can continue doing that. I mean, anybody who you know flies around in a TARDIS and parks it on the kitchen counter is always you know got to be focused on the computer.
A new couch.
Yeah, yeah. The one over your shoulder is the one I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you might know because you were talking about Star Trek and they're semi-related. So.
Yeah. In fact, I have I have the plans already drawn out. One of these days, I'm gonna spend some time in my workshop and build a TARDIS. I had already started building the base of it before I lost my position in Kentucky. But the goal at that time was to actually build a TARDIS that was foldable and that had two doors. So a door on either side. So you could go in one door and it can slip out the back. You know, but and the goal of this whole thing was to actually we were going to drop it on the campus, not in Kentucky, but not that different than the campus in Glendale. And we were going to basically in the middle of the night move it to different places inside buildings so it wasn't stolen. And things like this. But we were going to basically move it around campus and make it a fun little thing. And I was actually going to dress up as the Tom Baker version of the Doctor, so that I could actually go and various places with the thing and take pictures.
That's
do
genius.
So that never came to be because Kentucky had budget problems and let 500 professors go in one signature. So never got that far. I wound up having to, when I moved back to the Chicago area, from there, I wound up having to throw away the wooden projects I was working on. Never moved it. So I still have a lot of the notes from when I was building it. So I may eventually get back to rebuilding a new version of it. So, all right. So let's look at this. Think of it as 1 strongly disagree, all the way to 5 strongly agree. So number 1, a leader should set direction without input from followers. 1 to 5, strongly disagree to agree. A leader should set direction without input from followers. Number 2, a leader should set direction without input and consultation with followers. Notice the difference from followers and with. So I'm going to discuss it with or at and for. Number 3, a leader should set direction based on the wishes of followers. Where's your thought process on this? Strongly disagree to strongly agree. Number 4, a leader should use a task force or committee rather than making a decision alone. Do you agree or disagree? A leader should use a task force or a committee rather than making a decision alone. Number 5, a leader should evaluate the progress of work with little input from followers. Look at the input. I don't need your input to look at the evaluation of the progress. Number 6, you agree or disagree? Number 6, a leader should leave it up to followers to initiate informal day-to-day communication. Or should there be team meetings? The leader should call them and run them and things like that. Number 7, a leader should encourage followers to initiate decision-making without first seeking approval. Let them initiate decision-making and make decisions without always asking for. Agree or disagree, 1 through 5. Number 8, a leader should closely monitor rules and regulations, punishing those who break the rules. Agree or disagree? Number 9, a leader should keep followers up to date on issues affecting the work group. A leader should keep followers up to date on issues affecting the work group. Agree or disagree? Strongly disagree, number 1, to strongly agree, number 5. Number 10, a leader should explain the reasons for making a decision to his or her followers. Should explain the reason. Agree to disagree, 1 to 5. Number 11, a leader should remain aloof and not get too friendly with his or her followers. In other words, keeping them at arm's length. A leader should remain aloof and not get too friendly with his or her followers. Strongly agree, number 1, to strongly disagree, number 1, to strongly agree, number 5. And then number 12, a leader should provide broad goals and leave decisions regarding the methods for achieving those goals to their followers. Disagree, strongly disagree, number 1, to strongly agree, number 5. All right, got through those. Now put all those numbers. Question 1, what did you put 1 through 5? On the bottom there for question 1, 5, 8, and 11 in total. 1, 5, 8, and 11, and total that number. So what did you put for question 1, question 5, question 8, and question 11, and come up with a total? And then the second question 2, 4, 9, and 10, and come up with a total. And then thirdly, 3, 6, 7, and 12, come up with a total.
Kids are designed to fuel your kids' interest. It's great for a kid curious about the world or interested in the kitchen.
All right, what'd you come up with?
No matter what they're
So I
help them take their passions to the next
I
level.
got 12, 12, 13.
12, 12, 13. Okay. So that basically means you are pretty much even across the board, but have a leaning toward a laissez-faire leadership style, meaning, which I tend to almost disagree with you on that one, because, and I say that only because I've heard you talk about taking people under your wing and kind of really, kind of pushing them a little bit to kind of work with the group, etc. So that's an interesting thought process. Andrew, what'd you come up with?
I got 10, 15, and 14.
A much more democratic style. Okay. Okay, very good. I can see that. I've watched you do just that. Kind of asking everyone's input as things go forward. So, very good. And you can see how this might, if you've got you got a group that you're working with, especially if you're trying to do an analysis from, especially if you're trying to do an analysis from the point of view of Tuckman. Where's my storming happening? Sometimes this kind of reveals where the storming's happening. If you're dealing with a couple of different people that are wanting a authoritarian style, just tell me what to do. and you're trying to get pull out of them, for example, their take on participation and things like this, and they don't care. They just want to be told what to do. Or quite the opposite. You want to tell them what to do. I'm not suggesting that about anybody. You want to tell them what to do, and they're pushing back and being rather resistant because they're thinking that they ought to have a say. It's a group project. Who put you in charge concept. And even if it were the teacher and that you have an answer to that question, they're still not going to be happy about it because they have a much more democratic style to how in their head and to how this ought to go. So this is really good sometimes for analyzing where we are with Tuckman. So this is interesting in that over the years, we have had to deal with leadership theories from various disciplines that have included many different approaches. Now, I've given you, for example, the communication discipline approach and the one that I adopt. And the one that I adopt is all about the social construction of meaning and being able to relate that meaning of reality to others to a point that they accept it, they buy into it, and into that vision, and thus then buy into the goals and objectives that come out of the understanding of that vision. If you can do that, you are a leader. There have been over the years in organizational industrial psychology, business management, et cetera, all these disciplines from the academic perspective where people have attempted to determine what are the secrets to determining leadership theory. And some leadership theories have suggested, for example, the number one up there on the top, traits. Are you a leader? Can I pick a leader out of a group because you're the tallest one in the group? Physical height. There have been years where that was a predominant theory in the 1940s and 50s in business organizations. If you were white, male, and tall, that automatically pegged you for upper management in organizations that you were working for. One has to wonder if it's because you could be seen in a crowd. The dominant color of the dominant part of the dominant group in the United States and the dominant gender at the time. So there have been a number of theories and over the years, over older years, of course, where they were trying to determine what are the physical attributes that actually correlated with leadership. And those were some of the things that they came up with, which is interesting. And for researchers today, we're looking at it going, people really thought that? But the answer is yes, they did. Situational leadership. Did Rosa Parks ever suggest that she was going to go out of her way to become a leader? No. If you remember who Rosa Parks was, she was this tired individual who wanted to go home from work and wanted a seat on the bus. But situations are what they are, and some people are in, as we say, the right place at the right time, or the wrong place at the right time, or the right place at the wrong time. However we want to frame that, depending upon whether or not the person wanted to become a leader or not, so to speak, or were they just thrust into that. Situational leadership. The young men and women who survived the various high school mass shootings have gone on to speak out against assault weapons in this country. Did they ask for that? No, they did not ask for that. And yet, because they were there, the situation called for them to step up, and they felt the need to do so. Situational leadership. the timing is and the situation is what it is, and everything just kind of as we say, the universe aligned, and then people kind of appear. So as we look at this transformational leadership, charismatic leadership, charismatic leadership, these are the people that are very charismatic, right? They have that personality. This is where the thing that winds up in what we call a personality, cult of personality. Their personalities are so charming, so magnetic, that there are some people that would do absolutely anything those people ever said, almost as if it was hypnotic. Or they just buy into the legend of the story of that person and the spin around that person, whatever it may be, and so they follow blindly in some cases. The charisma. A lot of your religious leaders are often start off this way, and cult leaders certainly. So for real cults. So as we start to look at these vision and passion, and you see laissez-faire and authoritarian here and things like this, task and the like. Is there an absolute secret to leadership? I'm not sure there is. No matter the theory or perspective, the typology or model one uses to describe leadership, it all culminates in two functions. The secret, and you can see my comments in here. The actual words in here, to influence and to praise. The secret to leadership is often about influencing and praising, or as I like to say, to beg and to brag. To influence and to praise. So what does that mean? It means through if I'm taking a communication approach to leadership, I'm taking that approach that suggests that I'm going to frame reality, socially construct the facts in such a way that I'm going to catch a vision, express a vision, and hopefully relay that vision so others can also catch the fever of that vision. Thus, I'm influencing people to do things. People will respond better if we then praise, because oftentimes the two functions of any leader, to influence and to praise, right? Because now I want to tell the people in the group, especially if I'm running a group that operates on sales or donations, nonprofit or profit groups. If I'm the leader, I want to tell the group what a great job they're doing when they're following the vision. But even at the same time, I want to praise the group to everybody else in the world that will listen, by name if I can, and praise the group. So as we often say, especially if I'm running a nonprofit organization, my job is to influence and to praise, or if, as I like to say, just to remember for alliteration purposes, to beg and to brag. Influence people to do something, beg them to do something, and brag on them, brag to them, and brag on them to anyone else who will listen. To beg and to brag. If a leader can capture the essence of those two items, they can actually basically advance in their leadership abilities so much faster than if they were basically doing the I'm still trying to work this out, I'm still trying to figure this out, begging to brag. Ask people to do, continue to influence people to contribute to the mission, and then brag to the world about them and brag to them about the work that they're doing. All right. Many hands and hearts and minds generally contribute to anyone's notable achievements. Walt Disney. So, anybody if you say to anybody, look what everything you've accomplished, has it ever been the one person who's really accomplished everything that we're suggesting? The answer is no. There are people that have actually contributed, and they've only contributed because of the actual extent that this happened, right? So that we were able to actually influence and praise. Struck social reality, and then actually put it together. So if I go all the way back to the beginning of this, let's review that part again. Leadership. It's about about taking the risk. Now, and it is a risk, isn't it? Because if people don't accept the same interpretation of reality that you're trying to give it, you get rejected. And there's a lot of people who don't want to take that risk. So it's about the risk of managing meaning. What does this mean? Now, at the same time, when we talk about managing meaning, can I cure, if I'm a witch doctor, can I cure various diseases? Maybe, maybe not. Can I help, can people cure themselves with the right attitude and actually function, create changes in their own bodies? Yes, they can. That's been proven. So when we talk about primitive witch doctoring, for example, there have been stories that I can create reality. I'm feeling really sick. I'm feeling really ill. I'm gonna go to the witch doctor, and it could have been the shaman, could have been the matriarch of the tribe, whomever it is that's responsible for the curative properties of the processes of the society as it was constructed. Uh, and this has been a noted process where they keep a lot of their potions secret. And if they're keeping a lot of their potions secret, so let's go ahead and take a couple things. So I'm going to create a potion for you to fix you right up. You're coming to me with something that ails you. I'm going to go ahead and create a potion. But what am I really creating? I'm creating a potion that has both dead bugs and vomiting properties to it. I'm not going to really let you look into the glass or whether the bowl or the cup or whatever it is, but I am going to force you to drink it fast. You're going to throw up, including you're going to throw up the bugs I just fed you. And now what am I going to do? I'm going to convince you that those bugs were probably swallowed by you beforehand, and that's what's causing your illness. So now you'll be better. That's what. If you believe you are better, what are the chances from a placebo effect that you will get better? Very good. So what have I done? I've completely structured the social construction reality for you. And here you go. Leadership is about taking the risk of managing meaning. I am now telling you what that means. Now, if all I did was tell you, oh, just think about getting better and you'll get better. Lots of people are not going to be able to do that. But if I can somehow give you an emotional hook of some kind to go, okay, I swallow these bugs. They're making me sick. And the witch doctor, the shaman, the matriarch, whatever, whomever it was, gave me that potion to make me get rid of them. Yeah, there you go. We assume a leadership role, indeed we become leaders through our ability to decipher and communicate meanings of complex and confusing situations. So what does an eclipse mean to 1,000 years ago? Does it mean the gods might be angry with us? Could be. It might have been created, expressed that way. What does an early winter mean? So there's science has come a long way, and a lot of us have learned a lot more about science and climate and things like this. But there are a lot of people that are actually taking the idea, for example, of that science and bringing us back to that's nothing more than a witch doctor interpretation. Global warming? Come on, really? It's getting colder earlier, so thus it's going to wind up looking like so what happened to all this global warming? Ignoring the idea that the actual weather is 10 more minutes and I'm actually going to wrap up. Hold on a quick second. About 10 minutes, I got to wrap up.
Bernadette wants to take us out to dinner at 6:30.
Okay. So, all right. So, I've got my father here as a guest today, so uh, uh, with uh, with mom just having passed last month, so it's kind of a we're not leaving him alone. Um, so the idea is, are we looking at global warming? Do I understand the science? Now, this is one of the current theories of global warming. Okay, so a lot of people are going to say it's colder. Global warming's not really happening. Well, is there an ozone shield around the planet? Yes or no? All right. Some people dispute that. Okay. So is global warming and the gases and everything we're releasing actually releasing the ozone? Yes. So does the ozone blanket that was the insulator for the planet being thinned or destroyed? The theory is yes. So does that mean the heat is leaving us that much faster and it's not being retained under the ozone? Yes. Does that mean the planet's getting cooler? Yes. So by calling it global warming, what are we suggesting? We're a lot of the people that want to say it's nothing but witch doctoring. No, look, the planet's not getting warmer, it's colder sooner. Or it's getting hotter, in certain seasons. Well, you know, just because I don't fully understand it doesn't mean I'm going to take the words and try and respin it. Or does it? But that's the point of social construction. And are these people leaders? Of course they are. Problem is they're passing on. The problem is what they're passing on is bad science. But then again, isn't the idea of bugs in a vomit inducing potion bad science? It was bad science, but it was good for placebo healing, wasn't it? So it had the intended effect. Go back to this. Leadership is about taking the risk of managing meaning. We assume a leadership role. Indeed, we become leaders through our ability to decipher. Does it have to be correct deciphering? No. And communicate meanings of complex and confusing situations. Does the average person, and 1,000 years ago, would the average person understand illness and placebo effect and bugs in a potion? No. Does the average person today understand the science behind global warming and climate issues? No. So we're taking leaders who are taking complex and confusing situations, trying to make it into something less than it is, because I want to dumb it down to make it simple for everyone to understand. And what they're actually doing is giving it to the people, not in the way they want it to understand, but in a way for other people to capture the vision of their objective for where they want to take their leadership. In other words, the goals and objectives of their agendas. So our communication actually does the work of leadership. Our talk is to rescue, is the resource we use to get others to act. And if others act, we are leaders. If others act in ways that ignore the peril of a planet, for example, then those leaders have succeeded in moving people in that direction. If global warming turns out to be a big con, they were right. If global warming is a real thing, they're serving other agendas. Does that make sense? Now, I'm using global warming because it's a topic that is so easy to use in a case like this, because its currency is active, and you see people actively fighting on both sides of that issue, as if it doesn't mean anything, because they misinterpret or differently interpret the facts, just like I can interpret stepping on a Lego and stubbing my toe in the morning a couple of different ways. It can be a positive or a negative thing. Question is, how do I want to frame it? And it's that frame and the ability for us to frame and express that frame that causes us to become leaders. Communication, leadership is a communication function, if you look at it from that perspective. Questions? Does it make sense?
Yeah, a lot of it really is perspective.
Exactly.
I guess well, that's kind of the mindset I've been taking as I've been working to be a manager is really just, you know, evaluating like difficult and complex situations and seeing, I mean, like maybe like why is it this way? Or then just being like, okay, here's how I can make this easier
Yeah.
somewhat, or have other people in my workplace understand it. Um, yeah.
Sure. Good. Good. Okay. Wednesday. You guys planning on meeting again?
I think I should be free. I am free before 8 p.m. If we wanted to meet,
Wednesday, that's the 30th. I'm broke until the 1st. But if you're willing to cover me, I can pay you back the next day on whatever I paid you with last time.
yeah, I am kind of broke as well.
Well,
Maybe
then you might get
Thursday.
together. You might get together specifically and work on your work on your project. If not, that's basically what my intention will be to do is to put you all on, time again, even if you're on Zoom here to work on your, continue working on your presentation and discuss where you're at with, your group process.
Yeah, let's do that.
I don't mind just working on the presentation.
Okay. All right. Very good. Then we will at least start off here on Wednesday and get back, give you time either here or if you all decide that you'd rather work on, Google Hangouts or something else, that's fine too. But we'll start here. So, all right, very good. Then I will go ahead. Since we are recording, I will go ahead and by next day or within the next day or so, I will have this up. So Jalen, who's just joined us, can catch up on everything he missed.
Yeah, is it possible you can just give a brief summary? I watched the video, but can you just give me like what happened today?
No, he's waiting for me to actually do it. What happened today? We spent our day talking about the quote on your screen.
Okay, all right. So leadership and because I know in the
Mhm.
beginning you were talking about leadership skills and I guess that's where you went to. Okay.
Yep. Uh-huh. And so yeah, the video we'll put up will be the whole discussion on this. So, all right. Then if there's no other questions, then I think we are good for the day. So I'm waiting for that thing to come up again. So, all right. Very good. I'll talk to y'all later on Wednesday.
All right, have a good one.
Okay, bye.